Hi there, I'm Shelley Johnson. I am so glad you're here. Let's hear some words and give them space to do a work in us. As we continue to work out what it looks like to be set apart as holy for God, we're going to explore the Gospel of Luke for holy words. And you know I love words. If we give them space, they really do a work in us. And that was Jesus's point. It's why he preached. It's why he prayed. It's why he spoke in parables. And of all the gospel writers, Luke really focuses on the words of Jesus. He certainly preached in Luke, but not like he did in gospels like Matthew. But Luke shows that Jesus was very intentional in living as a man of prayer. In fact, in chapter 5, he just comes right out and says that very often Jesus went off by himself to pray. And then the rest of the book, we get glimpses of Jesus going off to pray by himself. One time he went up on a mountain and prayed, and the very next day he appointed his 12 apostles. That is no coincidence. He went up to talk with the Father to gain his wisdom to know which men to choose. Another night he went off to pray, and when he came back, the disciples were restless and a little anxious. And after some conversation with them, they finally said, would you teach us how you pray? And it's an interesting question because these 12 men, they were faithful Jewish men who would have grown up praying 3 times a day. So they understood what it was to pray, but they could see that their rabbi had a different way of praying. And of course, Jesus said yes and taught them what we now call the Lord's Prayer. These are words that are poetic. They have a nice rhythm and cadence, so they're easy to memorize. And Jesus did that intentionally. He gave his followers, then and now, a prayer to carry with us so that we, like him, can be constantly talking with the Father. So this prayer, while it is liturgical and we do speak it in our church services, it's not just that. It's also a model of how to pray. It's interesting that Jesus doesn't say this is what you pray. This is how you pray. So yes, pray it word for word. But it's not meant to be rote. It's not meant to be something that we just say because it's what we're supposed to do. It's meant to guide us in our conversations with God. It's also something, it's like what Jesus would have known this. He would have done this on purpose. In Jewish wisdom, prayers like this are meditative. In other words, you come back to them over and over and allow the Holy Spirit to reveal to you truths that maybe you hadn't noticed before, either about the prayer, about God, or yourself. And in that way, the words do a work in you. So parables, Luke outnumbers all the other gospels. I think you could add up the other 3 and come close to what the 24 that Luke has. In fact, 18 of his parables are unique just to his gospel. Some of them that we're very familiar with, like the Good Samaritan or the prodigal son. Parables are stories that offer lessons. And for Jesus's purposes, these parables were equally, they would conceal his point and reveal his point, depending on who the listener was. If someone had an open heart and mind for who Jesus is and what he was saying, a parable revealed truths about God and his kingdom that regular facts would not. At the same time, someone like a Pharisee who was very hard-hearted, closed-minded to Jesus, a parable would have concealed what he was trying to convey. And Jesus knew that parables were his friend in this way because he knew that if he spoke plainly in front of these mixed crowds, he wouldn't have lived 3 years on earth. He would have been killed much sooner. That was a new reality, a new aha for me. And so parables have lots of layers. They have lots of purposes, but like the Lord's Prayer, they're meant to be studied and come back to and meditated upon again and again. Because a lot like the listeners of Jesus's day, we as the readers of these parables often don't understand exactly what Jesus is trying to say. And that's kind of the beauty of them. If we come back and we ask Holy Spirit to read it with us, to speak it over us, to reveal to us God's heart for us in that moment, in that season, parables are going to have layers of meaning as well. We want instant gratification. We want instant understanding. And Jesus is challenging us to live set apart as holy by listening to, by reading and meditating on his holy words. In other words, don't be in a hurry. Take our time and give space for these words, these holy words, to do a work in us. I'll see you here next week.